Now, on the 10th of April 1993, Chris Hani was slayed on. He took two to the chest and two to the head, and that was it. He was gone, just like that. Now, the objective of this video is not to retell the whole story about his death. You already know that. But to try and establish why exactly him. Why not a Nelson Mandela? Why not a Jacob Zuma? Why not a President Thabo Mbeki for that matter? Matter of fact, why not any of the NC's top brass at the time? Like, who stood to benefit the most from his death? Well, the simple answer to that is,
why did you kill Chris Hani?
Chris Hani was a hardline communist who was determined at all costs, even to laying the country to waste, to achieve his political aims. He was a radical. He was uncontrollable by the ANC hired authorities. He was a man who targeted civilians in preference to military targets. And as far as we were concerned, he was public enemy number one.
But the long answer to that is, well, the long answer requires you to stay tuned to the video. So without any further ado, let's just jump straight into it. One of the first plausible reasons Chris Hani could have been unalive was his affinity with the arms struggle. The man has spent about 27 years of his life in the arms struggle. And this is not just any part of his life, but the best part of his life. His youth, to be exact. He was there in the firing line, in the ground. He had seen men die. He had seen men lose limbs. So for him, it wasn't easy to just let go of the arms struggle just like that.
I want to be honest. I was annoyed. I was marooned in the Transkei when the decision was taken to suspend the arms struggle. My indemnity had been withdrawn. I had spent more than 27 years in MK. I'd spent the best part of my life in an armed struggle against this regime. I was angry and bitter that this decision was taken without comprehensive consultation. That was my immediate gut feeling. I didn't sleep when our delegation was locked with de Klerk negotiating. I was waiting for the outcome. When there was that press conference early in the morning announcing the suspension of military activities, felt like crying.
Now, besides having reservations about doing away with the arms struggle, another reason that could have put Chris Hani in harm's way was his heavy criticism of the leadership of the ANC from abroad during the days of the arms struggle. So when Chris Hani came out of prison after spending 2 years in a Botswana prison for his part in the Wenke campaign, he came out to a different ANC. The ANC that he had left before he had gone to prison was a different ANC to the ANC that he came out to.
I found our movement totally unprepared for the continuation of the armed struggle in South Africa. That was my reading of the situation. Of course, there were reasons that they were put forward. And I began to agitate for the resumption of the armed struggle, for seriousness on the part of the leadership. I'm using the word seriousness because in my own view, and this was a subjective point of view, that they were not serious. And I became part of the writing of a memorandum which was very critical of the leadership. Well, that memorandum put us into some trouble. The leadership was angry. They thought our attacks were unfounded and irrational. And some of them felt that our attacks bordered on insubordination and on mutiny.
Now the big question is, had the ANC leadership from abroad already seen this and they realized that, hey man, this man is seeing through us, so it's best we get rid of him here and now before he gets in our way of eating? I mean, they'd known that this was a very upright man, and they'd known that at some point in time he had been quoted as saying he fears that one day the liberators will emerge as this elite class which will drive around in Mercedes Benzes and use the resources of the country to live in palaces and gather riches. Now, when you look at the ANC and the SACP of today, it's quite clear that Hani's fears were legitimate. Now, besides Chris Hani's affinity with the armed struggle and his heavy criticism of the ANC's leadership from abroad, another major problem was that Chris Hani was popular, like extremely popular. Just to give you a picture and to put things into perspective, upon his return from exile, he campaigned for the SACP in the townships, and at one point, the SACP was far more popular than the ANC. Now, to make matters worse, Hani was not just popular among the communists, he was also popular within the ANC ranks. People in the ANC actually loved him. Again, to put things into perspective, in the 1991 ANC NEC conference, Hani received a staggering 94.7% of the total votes. Yes, and that right there made him the second most popular leader among the ANC ranks, just behind Nelson Mandela. When you put that into perspective, chances are if he hadn't been unalive, you wouldn't have had President Thabo Mbeki, and most likely you wouldn't have had President Jacob Zuma as well. And that wasn't even the last of it. Just to put things into further perspective, at one point just after he came back from exile, he led a march of about 80,000 people. Yes, you had that right. 80,000 people in the Bantustan called the Siskai. Now, sadly, this day is also remembered as a very, very somber day because about 28 people lost their lives on that day through the hands of the soldiers of the leadership of that Bantustan at the time. And this eventually became known as the Bishop Massacre. Now, as much as Clive, David Louise, and them could claim that they unalive Chris Hani for whatever reason that they claim they did it for, it's also not as black and white as that. Historical events such as this one actually teach you that things are more than what they seem. Politics also teaches us this as well. Some fingers do point to the ANC leadership. Like for instance, when you look at Chris Hani's reluctance to actually abandon the armed struggle, that on its own could have been a problem for the ANC leadership. Second to that, you also have the criticism that was directed towards the ANC's leadership from abroad, straight from Chris Hani. More than that, you also have the problem of his popularity. He was very popular among the SACP ranks and the ANC ranks, so that on its own was also a threat. So him being gone would have done the ANC a whole lot of good as well. In fact, just as much good as it would have done to the white people and the white oppressors of the time. I mean, just think about it. Who addressed the nation immediately after the riots broke out after his death? It definitely wasn't the president of the country. No, it wasn't him. It was his fellow comrade. Now, how and why was this decision ever made? Why not the president of the country at the time? Why not de Klerk himself? Now, whether you believe the claims made on this video or not is really up to your interpretation. The whole aim of this video is to actually bring this to your attention and make you think, and that was it. And hopefully this video actually achieved this. Anyways, it's the lowdown, it's the breakdown series. Subscribe to the channel. Don't forget to like the video. Dango.